48 hours. That's all it took for him to call. Desperately. 48 hours since she applied what Louise Hay discovered by chance while working with women's self-esteem. A discovery that forever changed our understanding of personal magnetism in relationships. Have you ever felt invisible to someone you love? Have you ever felt like you've become part of their emotional wallpaper? Like they only pay attention when they need something? If you're hearing this now, you're probably in that place, and I completely understand how you feel. Because here's the raw truth nobody tells you. When you give too much in a relationship, you're not being loving, you're being energetically dependent, and energetic dependency is the opposite of magnetism. It's repulsive. Louise Hay discovered this in the most painful way possible. At 32, she was in a relationship where she felt completely invisible. She did everything for him. She was always available, always understanding, always there, and the more she gave, the less he valued her. One day, frustrated and exhausted, she decided to do something radical, something that went against all the advice she'd received about relationships. Instead of trying more, she decided to try less. Instead of getting closer, she decided to pull back. Not angrily, not dramatically, simply pull back. What happened next was so surprising that she spent the next 20 years studying the dynamics behind it. Because in less than 48 hours, everything changed. Completely. But before I tell you exactly what she did, before I teach you the complete technique, you need to understand something fundamental about masculine and feminine energy. Something that will explain why you're feeling invisible and how to reverse it quickly. Men are energetic hunters. They're programmed to pursue what's scarce and value what's difficult to obtain. This isn't superficiality. It's biology. It's how the male brain has worked for thousands of years. When something is always available, they stop hunting. It's instinctive. Women, on the other hand, are energetic nurturers. We demonstrate love through care, through availability, through personal sacrifice. And the more we love, the more we give. It seems logical, doesn't it? But here's the problem. This creates the opposite of what we want. Louise realized she was creating a toxic, energetic dynamic without realizing it. The more she gave, the more he became accustomed to that energy. And when you get used to something, you stop valuing it. It's basic scarcity psychology. She discovered that the problem wasn't the relationship. The problem was that she had lost her personal energy, her magnetic essence. She had become an extension of him instead of being a complete woman in her own right. And here's where it gets interesting. Louise started observing other women. Women who had men completely enamored with them. Women who seemed to have this natural magnetism that made men constantly pursue them. What were they doing differently? The answer shocked her. They weren't doing more. They were doing less. They had their own lives, their own passions, their own interests. They loved their partners, but they didn't depend on them to feel complete. They were energetic magnets, not emotional vacuum cleaners. Louise realized there was a crucial difference between loving someone and losing yourself in someone, between being available and being always available, between showing affection and showing dependency. And that difference was what separated magnetic women from invisible women. So she decided to do an experiment that would change her life and later, the lives of thousands of other women. She called it strategic energy withdrawal. It wasn't about playing mind games. It was about reclaiming her personal energy. The concept is simple. When you're always available to someone, you become part of their emotional background noise. You become background. But when you strategically withdraw, you force him to notice your absence. And nostalgia is the most powerful aphrodisiac there is. But here's the secret Louise discovered. The withdrawal can't be dramatic. It can't be full of emotion. It can't seem like punishment. It has to be natural, smooth, as if you'd simply remembered you have a life of your own. Louise applied this to her relationship. For 48 hours, she became mysteriously busy. She didn't respond to messages immediately. She wasn't available for long conversations. She didn't initiate contact. She simply disappeared from his emotional radar. And here's what happened. On the first day, he didn't notice much. He was used to her constant attention, so he didn't miss her immediately. But on the second day, something changed. He started to notice the absence. He started wondering where she was, what she was doing, why she wasn't looking for him. By the end of the second day, she received a call. He seemed different, more attentive, more interested, asking questions he hadn't asked in months, wanting to know about her life, showing an interest she hadn't seen in years. Louise realized she had discovered something powerful, something that went far beyond relationship techniques. She had discovered how to reactivate the hunter instinct that every man has, how to make him remember why he fell in love with her in the first place. Because here's the truth. When you first started dating, you were a mystery to him. You had your own life, your own friends, your own activities. He had to win your attention, and that made him captivated by you. But over time, you became more available, more predictable, more centered on him. And without realizing it, you lost that magnetic energy that initially attracted him. You became part of his routine instead of being the highlight of his life. The magnetic absence technique that Louise developed is about reclaiming that energy. It's about reminding him what it's like to have to win you back. It's about rekindling that initial flame where he felt he needed to put in the effort to have you. But for this to work, you need to understand the 3 phases of the process, because it's not just about disappearing for 48 hours. It's about creating a calculated, energetic withdrawal that awakens specific emotions in him in a specific sequence. First phase, confusion. He needs to be confused about where you are and what you're doing. Confusion generates curiosity, and curiosity is the first step to regaining interest. When he doesn't know where you are, his mind automatically starts to worry about you. Second phase, nostalgia. After confusion comes remembrance. He starts to remember the good times, the times you made him laugh, how good he felt in your presence. Nostalgia is like an emotional magnet, pulling him back to you without him even realizing why. Third phase, desire. When confusion and nostalgia combine, they create desire. A desire to see you, to talk to you, to have your attention again. That's when he picks up the phone and calls. That's when he shows up at your door. That's when he starts chasing you again. Louise Hay tested this sequence hundreds of times with different clients, and it always worked. Always. Regardless of the type of man, regardless of the relationship status, regardless of how long they'd been together. But here's where many women make a mistake. They apply the technique once, see the results, and then revert to their old patterns. They become super available again, and within a few weeks, they're right back where they started. Louise Hay discovered that magnetic absence isn't a technique you use once. It's a new way of being. It's about maintaining your personal energy always. It's about never again losing yourself completely in a relationship. It's about being a magnetic woman permanently. Pause for a moment. Take a deep breath, because what you're about to discover will forever change how you position yourself in any relationship. Louise Hay realized that most women make the same fatal mistake. They think love is about dissolving into the other person, about always being present, about putting his needs before their own. But that's not love. That's codependency. True love is when 2 complete people choose to share their lives, not when 2 halves come together to form a whole. When you're a complete person, you attract complete people. When you're a needy half, you attract people who want to control you or who run from emotional responsibility. Louise Hay developed what she called the principle of magnetic completeness, the idea that you can only attract healthy love when you are already complete within yourself, when you have your own vibrant energy, when you are interesting regardless of any relationship. And here's what will really surprise you. When you apply magnetic absence correctly, you don't just regain his attention, you regain your own energy. You remember what it's like to be a powerful and complete woman. You rediscover your own magic. Louise Hay saw this happen constantly. Women who came to her devastated because they felt invisible in their relationships. After applying the technique, they didn't just win back their partners, they won back themselves. Because here's the deepest secret of magnetic absence. It's not really about him. It's about you. It's about reclaiming your personal energy. It's about remembering that you are a prize. It's about stopping begging for attention and starting to deserve it naturally. When you understand this deeply, everything changes. Your posture changes. Your energy changes. The way you relate changes. And when you change, the way he sees you changes automatically. It's emotional quantum physics. Louise Hay discovered that there's a palpable energetic difference between a woman who's begging for love and a woman who's offering love from a place of abundance. Men feel this difference instinctively, and they respond in a completely different way. But to get to that place of energetic abundance, you first need to go through a process of emotional detoxification. You need to get rid of the dependency, patterns that have been created over time. And that's where the 48-hour technique becomes crucial. Those 48 hours aren't just about creating nostalgia in him. They're about you reconnecting with your own energy. They're about you remembering what it's like to be an independent and complete woman. They're about you rediscovering your identity outside the relationship. Louise Hay structured those 48 hours in a very specific way. It's not just about going off the radar. It's about using that time to reconnect with your magnetic essence, to remember who you were before you lost yourself in this relationship. And here's what will happen during those 48 hours. At first, you'll feel anxiety. You'll want to break protocol and get in touch. That's normal. It's your old dependency pattern trying to sabotage you. Louise Hay taught specific techniques to deal with this anxiety. After the anxiety comes clarity. You'll start to notice things about the relationship that you didn't see before. You'll understand patterns that were hurting you. You'll have insights about your own energy and how it was being wasted. And at the end of the 48 hours, something magical happens. You feel different, more centered, more powerful, more yourself. And it's at this precise moment that he calls, because he energetically feels that you've changed. And change generates curiosity. But what Louise Hay discovered later is even more impressive. She realized that magnetic absence is only the first step in a much deeper process, a process of personal transformation that makes you irresistibly magnetic, not just to him, but to life itself. Because when you master your own energy, when you understand how personal magnetism works, when you become a complete and powerful woman, everything in your life improves. Not just relationships, everything. Now let me teach you exactly how to apply the complete 48-hour protocol, the step-by-step method that Louise Hay developed after years of perfecting the technique, the system that has transformed the lives of thousands of women around the world. But before we begin, you need to make a promise to yourself. The promise that you will follow the protocol completely, without breaking it, without making exceptions, without rationalizing why your case is different. Because it only works if you trust the process. The protocol begins 12 hours before the official withdrawal. Louise Hay discovered that you need to plant the seeds of absence before you actually disappear. It's like preparing the emotional ground for nostalgia to grow faster. 12 hours before, You will be the most charming version of yourself. You will show genuine affection. You will be loving, attentive. You will make him feel loved and special. Louise Hay called this deposit before withdrawal. You are depositing positive memories that he will miss later. But here's the crucial detail. You cannot appear needy or desperate during these 12 hours. It has to be natural, fluid, as if you were simply in a good mood and wanted to share your positive energy with him. 0 hour. The withdrawal begins. From this moment on, you become a mysteriously busy person. Don't disappear dramatically. Simply become unavailable, as if your life suddenly got really interesting and jam-packed with activities. If he texts, take your time to respond. Don't ignore him, but take your time. 2-3 hours. And when you do reply, be friendly but brief. No long conversations. No questions about his day. Just polite and concise answers. Louise Hay discovered that the key is to seem slightly distracted, like you're thinking about other things, like he's not the #1 priority on your mind at that moment. This creates a psychological itch in him that can only be scratched with more attention from you. First 12 hours, he hasn't fully noticed yet. He's used to your constant attention, so the absence hasn't registered as anything significant. You might even receive some normal messages. Respond in a friendly but distant way. During this period, you'll do something important. You'll reconnect with activities that bring you joy. You'll call a friend you haven't spoken to in ages. You'll do something that makes you feel alive and interesting. Louise Hay insisted that this reconnection is essential for the technique's success. Because here's the secret. Magnetic absence doesn't work if you're at home thinking about him. It doesn't work if you're suffering and controlling yourself from contacting him. It only works when you're genuinely living your life and having fun. Second 12 hours. This is where the magic begins. He's noticed something's changed, that you're not giving him the usual attention, that you're different, more mysterious, more busy, and this sparks his curiosity. You might receive longer messages, questions about where you are, what you're doing, why you're not responding like you always do. Louise Hay taught a golden rule for this moment. Be honest, but vague. If he asks where you are, tell the truth. I'm out with the girls. I'm taking a class. I'm visiting my family. But don't go into detail. Let his imagination fill in the gaps. Imagination is more powerful than any reality. Third 12 hours. This is where many women break protocol, because this is when he starts to get really interested. This is when he starts showing the attention you've wanted for months, and the temptation to fall back into old patterns is huge. Resist. This is the most crucial moment. This is when you're about to reap the rewards of what you've sown. If you break now, you lose all your progress. Worse than that, he learns that your absence is temporary, and that you'll eventually return to old patterns. During this period, you might receive calls, sweeter messages, maybe even declarations that he's missing you. Louise Hay taught that this is proof the technique is working, but it's not the time to stop. Fourth 12 hours, the turning point. This is when nostalgia peaks. This is when he really understands that something has changed in you. This is when he realizes he might have taken you for granted. This is when his hunter instinct awakens completely. Here you can have a conversation, but not a long, explanatory conversation. A conversation where you're present but still slightly mysterious, where you show that you're doing well, that you're living your life, that you're not desperate for his attention. Louise Hay discovered that this is the moment where many men make important declarations, where they admit they missed you, where they realize they weren't valuing you properly, where they start making plans to win back your attention. But here's where the technique becomes more sophisticated, because Louise Hay realized that 48 hours is just the beginning. It's just the initial awakening. To create permanent change, you need to integrate the essence of magnetic absence into your daily life. What does that mean? It means never again completely losing your personal energy. It means always keeping a part of yourself that's just yours. It means always having activities, interests, and relationships that exist independently of him. Louise Hay called this the permanent magnetism protocol. It's about becoming the kind of woman who naturally sparks curiosity and desire, not through mind games, but through a rich and interesting life. First rule of permanent magnetism: maintain your female friendships. Magnetic women have friends. They have their own social lives. They have conversations and experiences that don't involve their partners. This creates natural mystery and keeps you interesting. Second rule: have personal passions, hobbies, interests, activities that make you shine. When you're doing something you love, you emit an irresistible energy. Louise Hay noticed that men are attracted to women who have their own passions. Third rule: never cancel your plans for him. Obviously, you'll want to spend time together, but if you always cancel everything when he's available, you teach him that your life revolves around him, and that kills the mystery. Fourth rule: maintain your personal growth. Keep reading, learning, evolving. Stagnant women become predictable. Women in constant growth become fascinating. Louise Hay discovered that when you apply these rules consistently, you no longer need to use magnetic absence as a technique. It becomes part of who you are. You become naturally magnetic. And here's what will really shock you. Louise Hay realized that women who mastered permanent magnetism didn't just maintain vibrant relationships. They attracted opportunities in all areas of life because magnetic energy isn't specific to relationships. It's a force that attracts abundance in general. Professional opportunities, interesting friendships, enriching experiences. When you become a magnetically alive person, life responds. But let me tell you what really happened to Louise Hay after she mastered this energy, because the story doesn't end with her winning back her boyfriend. The story ends with her discovering something far more valuable. 6 months after applying the technique for the first time, Louise Hay realized she no longer wanted that relationship, not because she was angry or resentful, but because she had become such a more powerful and interesting version of herself, that relationship no longer made sense. She had energetically outgrown her partner. She had grown beyond the dynamic they had created. And when that happens, you have 2 options: teach your partner to grow with you, or find someone who is already at your energetic level. Louise Hay chose the second option, and that completely changed her life. Because when you're vibrating at a high frequency of self-worth and personal magnetism, you attract people who are also vibrating at that frequency. Louise Hay found someone who naturally valued her, someone fascinated by her from day one, someone who never took her for granted because he recognized the prize she was. And that relationship flowed in a way she'd never experienced before. But here's the plot twist that will change your perspective on all of this. Louise discovered that magnetic absence isn't really about getting male attention. It's about you recognizing your own worth. It's about you stopping settling for less than you deserve. When you apply the technique correctly, one of 2 things will happen. Either he'll wake up and start valuing you appropriately, or you'll realize you deserve someone who values you naturally. Both outcomes are victories. Louise realized that many women are afraid to apply the technique because they're afraid to find out he won't react. They're afraid to discover that maybe the relationship isn't as special as they thought. But that discovery is a gift, not a tragedy. Because living begging for attention from someone who doesn't value you is a slow form of emotional death. It's wasting your precious energy on someone who doesn't recognize your worth. It's accepting crumbs when you deserve the entire feast. Magnetic absence gives you clarity. It shows you exactly where you stand in the relationship. It reveals whether it's worth investing your energy there, or if it's time to invest in someone who truly deserves you. And here's the ultimate truth Louise discovered. The goal was never to manipulate him into giving you attention. The goal was always about reclaiming your personal power, remembering you are a prize, stopping begging and starting deserving. When you understand this deeply, you'll never again accept being treated as a second option. Never again accept relationships where you give far more than you receive. Never again lose your identity trying to please someone. You become a woman who knows her worth, who demands to be treated accordingly, who naturally attracts people who recognize her magic. And that changes everything. The 48 hours are just the beginning of your transformation, the initial awakening of your magnetic energy, the first step towards becoming the powerful woman you always were beneath all the patterns of dependency. You have the tools, you have the protocol, you have the knowledge. The only question that remains is, are you ready to discover how much you really are worth? Because when you apply this, when you truly commit to your own self-worth, when you stop begging for love and start deserving it, your entire life changes. He might miss you in 48 hours, but you'll find yourself forever.